This is your guide to succeeding as an entrepreneurial leader. Whether you're in business, a parent, or part of a community project, we can all be entrepreneurial leaders. With your host, Jeannette Seibly, the Leadership Results Coach, and a variety of experts in leadership, you'll learn how to create extraordinary work and life results, stand up and speak up, make more money and have more fun, and get out of your own way. The biggest challenge is we don't like to ask for help and get stuck as do-it-yourselfers. Well, not anymore. Now here's your host, Jeannette Seibly, ready to help you become a successful entrepreneurial leader.
Welcome. This is Jeannette Seibly, the Leadership Results Coach. Many of you as entrepreneurial leaders may be finding yourselves unemployed or underemployed and wondering what to do next, especially if you didn't or don't like your current job or your previous job, or you have adventures you want to pursue, but you need that paycheck. My guest today has used side hustles and gig work to find work he enjoys, pay his bills, and have adventures too. He builds new opportunities with each job. So my guest today is Bobby Crew, and he's going to share 3 key factors that have made a big difference in his employability. He has found that these key traits will either create or hurt your next opportunity. To be transparent, he is my virtual assistant and has helped me sell more books through social media efforts. As you know, by listening to my podcast, I love to share a personal quote that is meaningful to my guests. And here's the one from Bobby Crew. Positive relationships plus good work equals new opportunities. Bobby, welcome.
Hello, Jeanette. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, and thank you for being here and sharing your adventures of using side hustles and gig work to create full and part-time employment opportunities. I heard that you even took time to live in New York City for a month and kept your business going. So let's start at the beginning. How did you get started in all of this?
So when internships, that's always what I recommend for any person that I meet that's still in college is do as many internships as you can. And I did 3 internships when I was in school, one related to teaching, one related to working for a magazine as junior editor, and then finally one with the Book Shepherd, known as Judith Briles, for Author U, which is a nonprofit author resource organization. And that creates a community of authors, and we teach people how to publish and book market successfully and how to grow their following and things like that. And after interning at Author U, Judith Briles hired me on and as her assistant. And I've worked with her for 7 years now, I think. Time goes by really fast.
Yeah.
And through this organization, I've met many authors from all over who are writing in so many different genres. And I've been able to meet and network with people all over who are doing the same things that I want to do, as I'm an author myself. I write horror. So that's kind of how I got into this side gig thing. I mean, I was always working more than one job. Like even in college, I worked 2 jobs and I had an internship and I was still taking classes. So it was a lot.
And what kind of jobs were you working?
I was working at restaurants.
Okay.
I've worked in restaurants for a long time. And I've done serving, bartending. I was a manager for a fine dining restaurant for a while as well. I've done event planning and event coordinating, things like that. And I would say that's also been kind of a cool thing to keep going back to, as far as if I ever need extra money. There's opportunities for doing things in working for private events or, picking up shifts at a restaurant or bartending shifts every now and then for extra money. So it's always nice to just have like something to fall back on if you do ever need some extra cash or things like that.
Well, and I think that's really important, particularly for the people who are listening today, because a lot of times we think we have to just focus on one, or something is beneath us, or that's going to take up too much time or something like that. And to me, it sounds like you have this attitude of can do. I can get this done, and I'm going to make sure my bills are paid and things of that nature. But also, the one thing that I've really been aware of in working with you is your focus on creating what's next. And so I think that's really, really important, because a lot of people don't do that. I think they miss out on some key traits that make a difference on whether somebody even wants to bring them back. Because sometimes they hurt themselves, right? Like they shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
So what are the 3 tips that you recommend to my listeners that help you achieve your success? So what would be the first tip?
So my first tip would be create lasting impressions with those around you. Take time to get to know people that you're working with, people that come into your office, get to know your clients. Make lasting impressions. Like even in working in restaurants, we had a huge regular base, and I would do what I can to remember little things about people, and including like, their names, sometimes things that they've ordered, ask them about their day. We'd get into all kinds of, talk about like things in their lives, and you kind of just get to know people over time. Also with your coworkers, working at the last restaurant that I was at, I built great relationships with every single person that worked there, from my the servers, bartenders, to the kitchen people and management, and even the owners. So that when they did ask me to become a manager, the entire staff was just ecstatic that I was the new manager. Like there was no like jealousy or like animosity or anything at all. And when the owner actually came in to visit to see how things were going, he told me it was the smoothest manager transition he's ever seen before, because the entire staff already loved me and they were ecstatic that I was going to be their manager, and I worked well with them, and I had just like staff loyalty and just like a really great team to work with. So just building relationships like that, and building relationships with any networking opportunities you have. With Author U, I got to meet so many authors, and I would get their books, read their books, get to know what they're doing for their next projects, and try and help encourage them in ways that I could to do little specific things in book marketing, as far as growing your social media list or your email lists and things like that. And the more people that I got to know and built those relationships with, once we kind of announced to the group that I was going to be working with other authors now, I had like a flood of people running to me, because I'd already pre-built those relationships just in my everyday work life.
Well, that you did, because I was one of them. So it's like, yeah, good job, really. And it doesn't take away from, like, building relationships is key, but it's also when you're at work, staying focused on the job and not letting your mind wander to other things or think about other things. But also some areas that I think sometimes people forget is to show up on time, to deliver on time, and be customer focused. I know you've gotten a lot of business because you are customer focused. And I think that's a trait that not a lot of people have. So why do you think you have that trait?
Well, I mean, it's definitely chaotic working with so many people at one time. And kind of the only way to survive is to kind of get organized and structure the way that you work with people when you're working with so many people at once. And so I'd say the best way to do that is to get into a routine with your clients, and which is harder to do for some people than others, because there's some people where you try to get into a routine and it just doesn't work. Either they can't keep up with it, or they just change things constantly. So you kind of have to just be very adaptable to working with different people. When you're working with so many people, working with one person one way might not work with another person another way. And sometimes you have to like keep them organized and remind them, hey, I need you to send me these things. It's Wednesday. You've got a newsletter coming out and it's Wednesday and I still don't have it. So what would you like to do today? Um, so it's organizing yourself and then also sometimes trying to organize your client around what they want to do, or you take initiative and say, hey, I know that you needed this, so I just went ahead and did this for you with your time to make your life a little easier. So just really kind of anticipating your client's needs and doing good work. I mean, continuing to learn your craft and to continue, like I love learning new skills. So anytime I have an opportunity to do something new, I jump on it because the more tools and things I can add to my list, the more valuable I am to my clients. So, I mean, it started mostly with social media and newsletters, but then it's grown into, Amazon campaigns, growing your email list through giveaways, doing bestseller campaigns, and now even doing podcasts and things like that. So the more things that I can do, the more valuable I am, and the more money I can make, and the more clients I get.
Well, and I think that's valuable advice because a lot of times we're not, we come very myopic in how we look at, we have like blinders, on our, like a horse with a blinder on. And of course that maybe some people may not know what I'm talking about, but it's like putting like your hands up by your eyes so you can't see around. And that's what gets you in trouble. And having worked with you, Bobby, I know that you don't do that. You don't have blinders on. You're very open to seeing what else might be done, which leads us to tip number 2. And you just mentioned it, learn your craft. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So, practice. I mean, so like when like when you have your specific tasks in a job, get really good at those, do them well, but then start trying to learn new things. Sometimes when you're working and they throw out like a new, tasks or more jobs, people shy from them because they don't want to do more work. But the reality is, when you learn new skills, you become more valuable. And whether you're staying at that job or not, you carry those skills on to the next job. And so the more things that you can learn that are related to the field, the better you are. And then working with different people, figuring out what their needs are, where sometimes they might have a need that they might need something that you haven't done before. And then if you're able to be like, hey, I can figure out how we can do that and get that to work, people love you for that. And it's like, like it's a new idea and it's like, you know what, we can figure this out. We can get this done. It makes you look more reliable. And then when you learn that skill, you just add that onto your list of things you can do for other people. You add that to your list on your resume, and you just continuously grow and add value to your clients. And then again, the more things that you're able to do, the more people will want to work with you. And then the more you can kind of be like a catch-all be-all for a person in different scenarios.
Well, I think what you're also pointing to is that you've never considered yourself above somebody else. So if you're a server and the table needs to be cleared, you clear the table. You don't wait for somebody else to come and do that for you. And I think that's the other key is be easy to work with. So if you're learning your craft, be easy to work with. I remember one time attempting to hire a virtual assistant. This was years ago. And you could tell she really didn't want to. And it was like one of those things where I just needed something done. It wasn't urgent. And she goes, well, how long do I have before I have to have this done? And you knew right then and there that this was for sure wasn't going to work out. She gave her the deadline. But what's fascinating is that kind of attitude. And I've, stayed connected with this person on Facebook. And this person's always looking for more work because they haven't done a great job on building, learning their craft and then lending itself to tip 3, which is building a good reputation. So tell us more about how to do that. And tell a personal story. I'm sure you've got a bunch of stories, but tell us a personal story how you did that. Like maybe you had adversity and it's like, but you overcame that, because I know you've got some.
For sure. I mean, should I keep this in the author field or the restaurant field, or like what kind of story are we looking for? Let's go.
I'm sure you've had a difficult customer as a server.
Oh,
Someone who
absolutely.
just drove you up the wall.
Absolutely. I mean, that happens all the time. You kind of just have to bite your tongue and be kind and also listen. Listening is key. Like a lot of the times, if they just feel like they're not heard, then that's the problem as far as like dealing with guests and things like that. I mean, I would say that my biggest issues were with the new owner of the restaurant after I was there. And him not listening to people and having to kind of overcome that adversity when I have a whole staff to support, as one of his managers, and kind of having to communicate your point across to them, to try and like protect your staff. And once once you both actually listen to each other and you can kind of get that point across, it's like, hey, these things are hurting staff, these things can make things better. And if you present it in a way that's not too aggressive, but like actually like listen and communicate, then even a restaurant owner can change a policy that helps your staff and makes things a better environment for work.
And again, you're there
Yeah.
to support the owners, but in this case, you're also there to support the other servers, but you're also there to support the customers and the cooks and the bus people and everybody. So it's like that really fine line you have to walk. And I think sometimes people don't know how to build a reputation and walk that fine line. And I know, having been in human resources years ago, you have this fine line between supporting the employees, the managers, and the executives, and any company owners. I mean, there's always going to be that, but there's a way of doing that such that you work for a win-win-win result. But when push comes to shove, you know what I mean? There's a certain person paying, writing that check for you. So whether you're a 1099 person or you're a W-2 person, you got to pay attention.
That is very true. And I mean, as far as reputation building, I mean, just maintaining a positive relationship, even when something goes wrong. Even if you're dissolving your client relationship. One of my first clients, I worked with her for about a year, and she kept adding on more things and expanding her time. And then at one point, she actually wanted me to work for her full time. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm not in a position to work for you full time. And then little things just started to happen as far as our relationship, and like little mistakes that happened. And she needed to be in control of her assistant's time. And then, at some point I had to have that conversation where it's like, hey, I think it would benefit you if you have an assistant who's working for you full time, where you have control of their time and where they're available to you whenever you need. But I have to work with a lot of people at one time. And I'm cool with doing like these specific things, but I can't be your full-time assistant, even though that's what she kept pushing for, even when I said I couldn't do that. But like the way that she was working for me, it very much felt that way. And even when we dissolved a relationship, there was no bad blood between us. And I ended up getting a response back. This was months later. We were reaching out to schools for her to do a school visit. And she always offered to give me a commission if I booked her gigs. And somebody contacted me months later. I still passed that information on to her. She still gave me that kickback percent. And then she even asked me if I would start doing stuff for her again. And I'm like, we can't right now. I'm like a bit too full, but it was good that even though we dissolved a relationship, that she was still open to working with me and honestly seemed to kind of miss me at that point. But I mean, sometimes it's just like, even like if you are dissolving a relationship or if you're quitting a job, if you have a great reputation there for doing great work, you can always be rehired. I could be rehired at every single place that I've ever worked in my life, because I've always maintained and built those relationships with people. And I'm genuinely kind, and easy to get along with, easy to work with, and I do a good job. And that's just kind of how I have grown and how I was able to quit the restaurant managing thing and then start working for authors full time. And as you mentioned at the very beginning, when I went out to New York City, I only focused on myself and my business, and my business just like boomed. And I ended up getting new clients by word of mouth from clients that I had before, one of which just so happened to actually be in Jersey City. So like right where I was too.
Wow.
And she's been a great client to work with as well. So I mean, once you build good relationships with people and you build a good relationship and a good um, reputation, people will start to refer you to other people. I mean, if authors specifically, they usually know other authors, and when they run into somebody else that needs help, they might refer you to that person. And I have a lot of skills that I can apply to people that aren't authors, even to people that are doing small business work and things like that. So basically, the more skills you have and the broader your scope as far as just like your thought of like different types of people you can work with, you can network out and find clients, and the universe will provide. Like there have been random times when I'm like, oh my gosh, I just need like one more client this month, and then like suddenly randomly somebody will call me and it'll be like, oh wow, okay, perfect, it works out. So just have some faith in yourself, but like work really hard and be a good person and just network, talk to people, get to know people, and show up to events. Find out where your clients are hanging out and go there and see if you can meet people. And I guess I've always been an outgoing person for networking, so that's never been a struggle that I've had. But you definitely have to get out there and engage in the community around you. And if you can do that, then you grow.
Well, and I think that is so true. I mean, you're in one of those places in life where, say, all of a sudden you wanted to go full time, it wouldn't take you much to get a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 job offers for full-time work.
Yeah.
Because you have focused on these 3 keys, and these 3 tips that you've mentioned and underneath all of that is being customer centric. So it's creating a lasting positive impression, learning your craft, and not feeling that you're above or beyond something. It's like pitching in and helping where you can. And inside of all that, you're building a reputation such that people want you around and aren't unafraid to, suggest or recommend or refer you to others. So good work, Bobby. And I think a lot of people, if they take that on, if they're unemployed or even underemployed, and either take on a side hustle or some gig work, you never know where that's going to lead. It can lead to part-time work, it can lead to full-time work, or you might become a new entrepreneur business owner. So for those of you who are authors who are listening and you need help with your book, don't forget to check the comment box for info on how to contact Bobby. To wrap this up, this is Jeannette Seibly, and until next time.